At one point in his career, Max Holloway was a machine gun who mowed down opponents with an endless hail of strikes.
Hands the right hand and Holloway walks through it like it's nothing. Oh! This could be it.
But where his all-out assault style worked wonders, it left him wide open like a fortress with the gates unguarded. And that is what tougher competition took advantage of.
Oh, that was good.
Poirier's all over him!
It wasn't until after his third loss to Alexander Volkanovski that Max realized being a machine gun wasn't cutting it anymore. He needed to swap that rapid-fire approach for the precision of a sniper.
There it is! Oh! Just slept him!
Max Holloway 2.0 is far more dangerous than any of his previous versions. He's not young and wild anymore. He's older, wiser, and way more strategic. Everyone still sees Max as a brawler, but in this video, I want to show you the evolution of Max Holloway. Max Holloway has always approached fighting as a true Hawaiian brawler. Though Holloway has been hittable, he more than made up for it through his ability to adapt and control distance using his long and lanky frame. Now that doesn't mean Holloway had bad striking defense. He's always had great defense, but he still ended up getting hit because of his underlying urge to constantly overwhelm people. Luckily, the Hawaiian has toned that aspect down significantly, judging by his recent fights. The difference now is that his violence is more controlled, like a volcano that knows exactly when to rumble and when to erupt. Back when Holloway was the UFC featherweight champ, he brawled whenever he could. Against decent strikers, he fired on all cylinders. Against more powerful strikers like Jose Aldo and Jeremy Stephens, he was more controlled. But they all got a taste of that raw Hawaiian power. At only 26 years old, Max Holloway was already being regarded as the greatest featherweight of all time.
Max Holloway, always a big fan favorite, probably the greatest featherweight of all time.
Until he decided to move up to lightweight to fight Dustin Poirier for the interim lightweight title. And then his career kind of took a twist of fate. Holloway moved up to face an absolute killer in the form of Poirier without proper preparation. The two errors he made was, one, he fought Poirier like he fought most of his opponents at 145, and two, he fought on a short notice without adding muscle. Although Holloway did find some success against Poirier in the third, the Diamond's tight defense really threw him off. Whenever Poirier hid behind his elbows, blocking Holloway's path to his chin, Max struggled to find an opening. That resulted in Holloway lingering in the pocket far too long and giving Poirier more opportunities to counter. Both men landed around 200 strikes, but Holloway's face was a telling tale of the power difference between the two.
Like after the fight, there was a big difference between the amount of damage that Poirier landed, a big difference. He was hitting him with big shots, and it wasn't just big shots, it was shots, period. He was hitting him with really clean, well-timed shots with great head movement, great movement.
Now back in his division, Holloway eased past an old and slow Frankie Edgar before locking horns against the rising Alexander Volkanovski, who, like Poirier, exploited Holloway's stalking style to perfection. In the first fight against Volkanovski, Holloway was outkicked by a shorter, quicker opponent. As he advanced, aiming to box, Volkanovski kept moving, landing kicks to the inside leg or coming over the top with a right hand. Holloway was a predictable target, and his performance took a hit because of it. But the Blessed One made significant adjustments in the second fight. Instead of relying solely on pressure, he became more active with his kicks, forcing Volkanovski to lead more often. Holloway then capitalized by countering with uppercuts against this shorter opponent. When he managed to back Volkanovski against the fence, Holloway used his range effectively, making the most of his kicks and creating openings. It was a smart and high-level performance by Holloway, but he still lost by a highly contested and controversial decision. Personally, I think Max won the fight, and that is a hill I'm willing to die on. Anyways, Holloway's road to recovery saw him get matched up with fellow boxer Calvin Kattar, and Holloway took it as a challenge. Everyone was talking about how good Calvin Kattar's boxing was, but was kind of overlooking Max after he lost the second time to Volk. Max took this personal and battered him by landing more than 400 strikes while dodging Calvin's bullets and bombs like he was straight out of the Matrix. Holloway pressed forward against Yair Rodriguez too, but that was arguably the best way to counter the kicking specialist.
He looked like the best featherweight in the world. It's so hard to say because Volkanovski is the champ.
Now, let's get to the point. It wasn't until his trilogy loss against Alexander Volkanovski that Max decided to switch things up and make subtle improvements, which were as clear as day against Arnold Allen in his next fight. Not only was Holloway more patient, he was also a lot smarter as he patiently built his momentum around his jab. He'd attack Allen with a 2 to 3 punch combo and then quickly circle away. He mixed in kicks and spinning attacks well and countered every time Allen pushed forward. In fact, the Brit was way more aggressive than Holloway, who thought Max would be the aggressor.
What was the game plan?
Yeah, he kind of fought opposite to everyone, including myself, expected and everything we were prepared for. He sort of danced around and was very patient, which is not very typical of the way he fights. He usually sort of mauls forward and outwills people, and the whole strategy was countering that and, waiting for him to rush in and countering hard. But he was very patient and made me walk forward.
Max combos weren't as extended as usual. He used a hit and move approach and won the fight by fighting off his back foot for the most part. See, backtracking was something we rarely saw Max do before his third loss to Volkanovski. Not only did Holloway improvements pay dividends against Allen,
I think he used to be more hittable back in the day. He used to just purely, he was always very, very high level, really good at setting up traps, but willing to be in front of you and eat some while he's doing so. Now, he's got a lot more angles.
But also against the Korean Zombie. Throughout the fight, the Korean Zombie did what he does best. He pushed forward with zero regard for defense and swung for the fences. Holloway refused to engage in a firefight and instead used jabs to the head, 2-punch combos, counters, and lateral movement to frustrate Zombie. Max patiently waited for his opportunity and softened TKZ up for 2 rounds before Zombie went for the kill. Zombie ended up eating a looping right that had him folding like a lawn chair. It was as clean as a knockout could be, and a scary rebuttal to people who once called Holloway pillow hands.
I don't have punching power, but I have punching power. I can beat him.
That night in Singapore, Holloway displayed a new weapon in his arsenal, the looping power punch, an absolute nuclear strike that he detonated in his next fight. A few months after Holloway beat the Korean Zombie, the UFC booked a BMF title fight between BMF champ Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway at UFC 300. Holloway was the underdog given his previous loss at lightweight and Justin's recent string of victories that included a head kick knockout against Max's former opponent, Dustin Poirier. Now, many thought Holloway wasn't big enough for lightweight, or that Justin was just too powerful of a puncher to not put the Hawaiians' lights out. They said Max Holloway would end up like Tony Ferguson, and everybody was planning Max Holloway's funeral, except for me because obviously I'm the biggest Max Holloway fan. But guess what? Max came prepared for the second lightweight assignment.
Put on the right weight, we wanted to be smart, we wanted to be strong, but we still wanted to be fast, so I think we found a very even ground.
Max Holloway 2.0 produced a clinic, once again using his jabs, combinations, and lateral movement to frustrate Justin Gaethje and disrupt his game plan. With Holloway refusing to trade with Gaethje in the pocket and teeing off with range fighting, the highlight had no option but to go back to his earlier days when he used to recklessly move forward and brawl. That only made Holloway's job easier as he picked him apart and completely shut Justin down. But the best part came next. After being up on the scorecards with just 10 seconds remaining in the fight, Holloway gave Justin a last-ditch effort to score a KO, inviting him to stand and bang in the middle of the cage. The two swung like there was no tomorrow, and when the dust settled, Holloway was the last man standing.
That was the ultimate holy shit moment of all time.
That's right. The best is blessed. It was a badass move from a badass fighter because 9 out of 10 people would run for their lives if they're up on the scorecard against Justin freaking Gaethje with 10 seconds left. But not Max Holloway, not Mr. Pillowhands. Yeah, a true BMF.
Do you think anyone is ever going to oblige with you pointing to the center of the cage again?
I hope so.
Now, the next time Holloway enters the cage, he will be up against a force of nature in the form of Ilia Topuria.
Ilia can talk, but I got a lot of questions. You know, I like listening, and if that ever gets booked, you guys gonna see a lot of answers. So
Topuria is a true wrecking ball of fury who unleashed his stone hands on Alex Volkanovski at UFC 298, where he won by a brutal highlight knockout. The El Matador is a high-pressure fighter who loves to move forward and throw tight looping punches to melt his opponent. And surely, he'll try to do the same against Max. But I'm just gonna be honest here, you're not cracking Max's chin. The question is, will he succeed in doing so? Especially now that Holloway fights like a cerebral assassin, a man on a mission to reclaim his gold, a man who makes far less mistakes than he used to, and a man who now has a not-so-secret but deadly weapon. In my opinion, it's the toughest test for Ilia and one that he may not pass if Max Holloway is in his zone. Everyone sees Max as the Hawaiian Brawler, which is hard not to after what he did to Justin in the last second of the fight. But when you really look at his last 3 fights, you see his improvement. He's quietly changed his game, and Ilia Topuria still thinks he's fighting Max Holloway from 2019. I know who I'm going for at UFC 308, my GOAT, the blessed one. But y'all tell me, who do you think's gonna win at UFC 308 and why? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. If not, well, fuck you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.